What if you didn't feel pain? Imagine waking up one day in a world where the sharp sting of a cut, the burning agony of a broken bone, or even the dull throb of a headache simply doesn't exist. You stub your toe against the edge of a table and feel nothing. You slice your finger while chopping vegetables, but no pain alerts you to the injury. No discomfort, no warning signals, just silence. What if you didn't feel pain? It sounds like a gift, doesn't it? To live without pain, physical suffering, emotional agony, the prick of awareness that something is wrong in your body. A painless world might seem like a utopia at first glance, free from the chains of discomfort and distress. But beneath this shimmering surface hides a world that is strangely alien and far more complex than it appears. Pain, as unpleasant as it is one of the most fundamental mechanisms that keep humans alive. It's the body's alarm system, the primal language telling us to stop, to retreat, to heal. Without it, the stakes change drastically, and the very fabric of life unravels in unexpected ways. Now, picture a sudden shift, not just for an individual, but for all of humanity. What if, overnight, the entire human race lost the ability to feel pain? No more aches or suffering, but also no more signals warning us of danger. How would societies function? How would our bodies adapt or fail? How would our culture, ethics, and technology evolve in a world where pain ceases to exist? This is not just science fiction. It's a fascinating lens through which to examine the delicate balance of biology, psychology, and society. It forces us to reconsider what we often take for granted. What does it truly mean to feel pain? And what would happen if that primal sensation simply vanished? As we embark on this journey through a world without pain, we must first understand the deep roots pain has in our biology and culture. We'll explore what pain really is, beyond the burning or throbbing, as a complex neurological, emotional, and social experience. We will witness a hypothetical event that plunges humanity into this new reality and analyze the ripple effects on our bodies, minds, and societies. From the initial bewilderment to the radical transformations in healthcare, relationships, and even geopolitics, the absence of pain reshapes every aspect of human existence. At first, it may seem like a blessing, but soon the hidden costs become apparent. This story is not just about biology, it's about survival, identity, and the very nature of human experience. What happens when the alarm bell inside us is silenced? What new challenges emerge in a painless world? And ultimately, what does this tell us about the fragile interplay between sensation and life itself? Let's begin by stepping back and looking at the world as it is today. A world where pain, for all its cruelty, plays a crucial and often overlooked role. To truly grasp the magnitude of a world without pain, we need to understand how deeply ingrained pain is in the fabric of our current existence. Pain isn't just an annoying byproduct of injury or illness. It is an intricate biological and social phenomenon that shapes the way humans live, interact, and progress. From a scientific perspective, pain is a complex sensory and emotional experience processed by the nervous system. It begins at the site of injury or threat, where specialized receptors, called nociceptors, detect harmful stimuli, whether chemical, mechanical, or thermal. These receptors send electrical signals through peripheral nerves to the spinal cord and then up to the brain. But pain is not simply a direct translation of signals. The brain actively interprets, modulates, and sometimes amplifies or suppresses these signals. The emotional, psychological, and cognitive aspects make pain a uniquely subjective experience. This system has evolved over millions of years as an essential survival mechanism. Without pain, early humans would not have been able to recognize dangers such as fire, sharp objects, or broken bones. Pain forces immediate action, to withdraw, to protect, to seek help. In this way, pain acts as a teacher, a guardian, and a sentinel. But pain's influence stretches far beyond biology. It permeates our social fabric and cultural norms. Across every society on Earth, Expressions of pain, cries, gestures, rituals serve as communication signals to others. They elicit empathy, assistance, and social bonding. The communal experience of pain, from shared grief to collective trauma, shapes group identity and cultural narratives. It is a force that binds communities together, sometimes through shared hardship and sometimes through care. On the technological front, pain drives much of modern medicine and innovation. The desire to alleviate pain has motivated centuries of scientific research, leading to breakthroughs such as anesthesia, analgesics, surgical techniques, and pain management therapies. The entire healthcare system often revolves around diagnosing, treating, and preventing pain, making it a central focus of human well-being and longevity. Moreover, pain informs ethical debates and legal systems. Concepts such as cruel and unusual punishment, human rights, and animal welfare all hinge on the recognition of suffering. Our laws, moral codes, and humanitarian efforts reflect a universal acknowledgement that pain is to be minimized and respected. Within this context, the idea of a world without pain begins to take on a deeper significance. It challenges not just the biological imperatives, but the social, cultural, and technological frameworks we depend upon. In today's world, pain also acts as a catalyst for personal growth and resilience. Many people describe how overcoming painful experiences, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, leads to greater empathy, wisdom, and strength. Without the capacity to feel pain, would such growth be possible? Would motivation and learning change? From a technological standpoint, science is already edging toward new frontiers related to pain. Advances in neurotechnology and medicine are increasingly enabling the modulation of pain signals. Experimental treatments aim to reduce chronic pain by altering neural pathways. Gene editing and molecular therapies hold promise to address congenital insensitivity to pain, a rare condition where individuals cannot feel pain, often with dangerous consequences. Simultaneously, artificial intelligence and machine learning models are being developed to predict and manage pain, improving patient outcomes. Virtual reality is used to distract and reduce pain perception. Even wearable tech monitors physiological signs of pain for better diagnostics. These innovations hint at a future where the boundaries of pain might blur. But as we will see, the absence of pain is not a simple fix. It is a profound alteration that touches every corner of life. Society today is also defined by how pain influences economics and labor. Workplace safety regulations, insurance systems, and disability accommodations exist largely because of the inevitability of injury and suffering. Without pain, would these structures dissolve? How would labor productivity, risk-taking, and social equity shift? Psychologically, pain and pleasure are two sides of the same coin. The absence of pain might diminish the richness of pleasure or distort emotional experiences. The human brain's reward system is intertwined with the capacity to feel discomfort, ensuring balance and motivation. Thus, before stepping into a painless world, we stand at the intersection of multiple realities: the raw biology of nerve signals, the social web of empathy and law, the technological frontier of pain management, and the psychological landscape of human experience. Pain is not merely a sensation, but a foundation stone of what it means to be human. With this groundwork, we can now imagine the moment when this entire system, pain as a signal, as a social cue, as a driver of innovation, abruptly ceases. What would happen when this alarm that has rung since the dawn of humanity suddenly falls silent? The next phase of our journey explores this pivotal moment, the breakthrough or event that transforms humanity's relationship with pain forever. A moment of wonder, confusion, and deep uncertainty, setting the stage for a world unlike any before. The dawn of the painless era did not come as a gentle whisper, but as a seismic shock that rippled through every corner of the globe. It was a moment so sudden and profound that it upended everything we thought we knew about the human body and experience. Imagine the first human to wake up one morning, feeling no trace of pain, no ache in the muscles, no discomfort from a cut, no throbbing headache after a long night. At first, it might have seemed like a miracle. The inability to feel pain was greeted with awe, excitement, and disbelief. News spread rapidly as more people discovered the same phenomenon. Pain had simply vanished. Scientists scrambled to understand the cause. Was it a global neurochemical shift? A mutation sweeping through humanity's genome? A mysterious environmental factor? Some speculated a viral agent reprogramming the nervous system. Others posited a spontaneous evolutionary leap. Regardless of origin, the undeniable fact was that humans everywhere had lost the ability to register pain. The initial response from the public was a mixture of celebration and confusion. Social media exploded with stories of accidental injuries unnoticed, strange phenomena where bruises and burns failed to register on the body. Hospitals saw a paradoxical drop in pain-related visits, even as emergency cases surged due to unrecognized trauma. People marveled at the newfound freedom. No more crippling headaches, no more nagging backaches, no more dental or joint pain. The relief was euphoric. Governments and health agencies issued conflicting statements, some cautious, some jubilant, some alarmist. A new age of human evolution, proclaimed some visionary thinkers. Others warned of unseen dangers lurking beneath this painless veil. Yet, for many, the prospect of life without pain seemed like a long-awaited liberation. Healthcare systems faced an immediate crisis. Without pain as a warning signal, patients failed to report injuries or illnesses until conditions worsened dramatically. Doctors observed fractures discovered only after severe deformity, infections advancing silently, and diseases manifesting without the usual early symptoms. This silent progression baffled clinicians and challenged diagnostic protocols. Meanwhile, industries reliant on human sensory feedback underwent rapid change. Sports, where athletes had long pushed through pain barriers, found a new frontier as players no longer felt injuries during games, leading to shocking collapses and long-term disabilities. Workplaces became more hazardous as safety measures based on pain perception were suddenly ineffective. Insurance companies scrambled to redefine risk, given the altered landscape of injury and recovery. Yet, amid chaos, ori, ekatosas, pockets of adaptation and innovation began to emerge. Technology companies raced to develop alternative monitoring devices, wearables and implants that could detect injury or physiological damage without relying on pain. Artificial intelligence algorithms analyzed biometric data to provide early warnings for conditions that no longer triggered discomfort. The psychological impact on individuals was profound. For some, the absence of pain was liberating, a new baseline of existence, freed from suffering's tyranny. But for others, an eerie emptiness settled in. Without pain, the body's limits felt indistinct, and the line between health and harm blurred. The instinctual caution that pain once provided faded, replaced by a strange numbness that altered behavior and perception. Social reactions were equally complex. Empathy, often sparked by witnessing another's pain, struggled to find new ground. Without visible signs of suffering, compassion became harder to evoke. Relationships and social bonds, deeply tied to shared human vulnerability, faced unprecedented challenges. Some feared that the loss of pain might erode the very fabric of human connection. Philosophers and ethicists joined the global conversation, grappling with questions never before so urgent. If pain disappears, does suffering cease? What happens to morality when harm no longer results in felt pain? Could the absence of pain weaken humanity's capacity for empathy, resilience, or growth? The age-old understanding that pain was integral to meaning and survival was suddenly in flux. Despite the uncertainty, the scientific community intensified research to decode the neurological changes at play. Early studies suggested that the loss of pain was not a simple shutdown, but a profound rewiring of the nervous system's sensory pathways. Brain scans revealed altered activity in areas responsible for processing nociceptive signals, while molecular analyses pointed to modifications in ion channels and neurotransmitter systems. The initial breakthrough that sparked this painless shift remains a subject of intense debate. Some theories propose a new nanotechnological agent, designed originally for medical applications, but accidentally released into the environment. Others argue for a sudden epigenetic transformation, triggered by collective human consciousness or environmental stressors. Whatever the cause, the event marked an irreversible turning point. Humanity stood at the edge of a new evolutionary chapter, facing both unprecedented freedom and unforeseen peril. This moment, filled with wonder and trepidation, was the first step into a world that would challenge every assumption about life, survival, and the essence of being human. It was the start of a grand experiment, one that would test the limits of biology, society, and spirit. As the initial shock settled, the world moved into a phase of adaptation. Some hailed the painless future as a utopia in the making, while others cautioned about the shadows lurking beyond the bright horizon. The next chapter explores the immediate effects of this profound change, how daily life, economies, and societies adjusted to a reality where pain no longer served as the body's sentinel, and what hidden dangers quietly began to emerge. When humanity first embraced this strange new reality, one utterly devoid of pain, the initial responses varied widely, but the transformations in everyday life were swift and profound. The absence of pain reshaped the rhythms of work, health, relationships, and social order, creating an unpredictable landscape of both opportunity and peril. Economically, industries that had long been anchored by the management and treatment of pain suddenly faced upheaval. Healthcare systems, traditionally overwhelmed by pain-related illnesses and injuries, saw an unexpected paradox. Hospitals no longer treated patients for chronic pain conditions, migraines, or arthritis flares, yet emergency rooms flooded with cases of unnoticed injuries that had escalated without the warning signals pain once provided. Broken bones, burns, and infections often remained untreated until they reached life-threatening stages. At first, this led to a public outcry and confusion. People were unaware of the dangers accumulating silently within their bodies. Many suffered damage without even realizing it, leading to a surge in disability claims and emergency interventions. Physicians and caregivers scrambled to develop new protocols, relying heavily on advanced diagnostic technologies like thermal imaging, biomarker analysis, and continuous physiological monitoring devices. Technology swiftly became humanity's new sense of touch. Wearable gadgets, implanted sensors, and AI-powered health monitoring systems were rapidly adopted, providing real-time alerts about injury or illness that the body no longer signaled through pain. These devices saved countless lives, but also introduced a new dependence on technology for basic self-awareness. People no longer trusted their bodies alone. Instead, they looked to screens and alerts to know when something was wrong. This shift had an immediate economic ripple effect. The medical device and tech industries boomed, while pharmaceutical companies specializing in pain management faced severe downturns. Insurance companies had to overhaul their models to accommodate a landscape where injuries went unnoticed for longer, increasing risks and claims unpredictably. Employers, faced with workers who ignored physical limits, saw a rise in workplace accidents, prompting urgent revisions to safety regulations and the introduction of AI-driven supervision tools. Socially, the impact was equally dramatic. The absence of pain altered human behavior profoundly. Without the natural break that pain provides, people pushed their bodies further than ever before. Athletes shattered records, but also suffered catastrophic injuries that went untreated too long. Manual laborers overexerted themselves, leading to widespread chronic conditions only diagnosed through technology rather than sensation. This recklessness extended beyond the physical. Pain, often a deterrent to dangerous behavior, had also served as an emotional compass. Without the visceral feedback of discomfort or distress, individuals struggled to regulate their emotions effectively. Some found themselves emotionally numb, unable to connect deeply with joy or sorrow. Others sought increasingly intense experiences to compensate, engaging in risky behaviors or substance use to feel something. The social fabric experienced fraying as well. Empathy, once sparked by witnessing or sensing another's pain, became harder to access. Without visible suffering, the natural human response to help or comfort diminished in many communities. Relationships, built in part on shared vulnerability, faced new challenges. Some families and friendships grew distant as emotional cues became harder to read or trust. However, not all responses were negative. Some communities embraced the painless reality as a new frontier for growth and creativity. Artists and philosophers explored the idea of sensation and suffering from fresh perspectives, pushing humanity toward new modes of expression. Mental health fields adapted, developing therapies to address the unique psychological consequences of pain absence, including emotional regulation and empathy training. Culturally, celebrations of endurance and survival shifted meaning. Sports and physical feats lost some of their heroic allure as pain no longer defined the limits of human capability. Instead, the focus moved toward precision, innovation, and longevity. A new value emerged, the ability to live fully aware without the need for pain as a guide. Yet beneath these changes lurked warnings that few heeded. Medical experts cautioned that the loss of pain was a double-edged sword. Without pain, tiny injuries could escalate into devastating infections. Chronic conditions went unnoticed until irreversible damage occurred. Mental health professionals warned of rising risks of emotional detachment and decreased social cohesion. Governments and institutions struggled to keep pace. Emergency services adapted, introducing new protocols for detecting injuries in the absence of pain reports. Educational systems incorporated lessons on body awareness, teaching people to rely on new technologies and careful self-monitoring. Ethical debates emerged over how much to intervene in this new human experience. Should technologies that artificially restore pain sensations be developed? Would it be right to reintroduce pain to preserve survival instincts? Religious and philosophical discourses also gained prominence. Some interpreted the painless condition as a sign of transcendence or punishment, others as a test of humanity's resilience and adaptability. Discussions flourished on whether suffering and pain were essential to meaning and growth, or merely relics of a more primitive existence. Despite the promises of freedom and relief, the immediate aftermath of a painless world revealed a precarious balance. The very absence of pain that freed humanity from suffering also stripped away critical signals that ensured safety and survival. People adapted quickly, but the road was rocky and filled with unforeseen hazards. This phase set the stage for more profound transformations as society grappled with the limits of technology, the redefinition of health, and the evolving nature of human connection. The benefits and dangers of a painless existence were now intertwined in a complex dance, challenging every assumption about life itself. The coming chapters will delve deeper into the long-term consequences, where the silent costs of painlessness begin to reshape the environment, geopolitics, and even the very consciousness of humanity. As the initial shock of living without pain began to fade, humanity faced a far more complex and unsettling reality. The absence of pain, once hailed as a liberation, revealed itself as a catalyst for a cascade of profound and far-reaching changes, ones that reshaped not just individual lives, but entire societies, ecosystems, and even the geopolitical order. Environmentally, the ripple effects were subtle yet significant. Without pain as a natural deterrent, humans engaged in riskier behaviors that directly impacted the natural world. Increased physical recklessness led to a spike in accidents, many involving hazardous materials or dangerous environments. Industrial incidents became more frequent, with workers unknowingly exposing themselves to toxins or sustaining injuries that went unnoticed until severe damage occurred. This shift strained environmental safety protocols and regulatory frameworks, pushing governments to implement more stringent controls and monitoring systems. At the same time, With pain no longer a limiting factor, humanity pushed technological boundaries faster than ever. Innovations in robotics, artificial intelligence, and bioengineering surged, driven by the newfound capacity to endure physical extremes. Humans experimented with augmentations that enhanced strength, endurance, and sensory perception, technologies previously considered too risky due to pain as a natural limit. This acceleration in transhumanist developments redefined the human body, blurring the line between biological and artificial life. However, this relentless push forward came at a cost. The long-term health consequences of ignoring pain signals began to surface in alarming ways. Chronic internal injuries, unnoticed infections, and degenerative diseases advanced silently. Without pain, preventative care diminished in urgency, and early symptoms were frequently missed. Populations experienced unprecedented rates of disability and complex medical conditions that overwhelmed healthcare systems already stretched by adaptation challenges. Social structures, too, transformed under the weight of a painless existence. Interpersonal relationships struggled with the altered emotional landscape. Empathy and compassion, often sparked by the observation or sharing of pain, were in decline. The inability to recognize suffering in others led to growing social alienation and fragmentation. Communities fractured as shared experiences of vulnerability, a cornerstone of trust and solidarity, weakened. This shift had psychological ramifications on a massive scale. Mental health disorders such as depersonalization, alexithymia, difficulty identifying emotions, and dissociative tendencies surged. The absence of pain removed not only physical warnings, but also emotional feedback loops essential for psychological balance. Without discomfort or distress as guides, individuals found it increasingly difficult to navigate complex feelings or maintain motivation. Some turned to extreme stimuli, dangerous sports, substance use, or virtual realities to compensate for the missing signals, further complicating social and health dynamics. Politically, the world grappled with new challenges. Nations faced increased demands to manage the unpredictable risks associated with a pain-free population. Military forces found soldiers able to endure more, but also prone to ignoring critical injuries, leading to operational failures. The legal system struggled to adapt definitions of injury, liability, and consent, as traditional concepts hinged on the experience of pain and suffering. Human rights debates intensified, with some advocating for restoring pain as a necessary safeguard, while others argued for embracing a painless future. Geopolitically, the altered human condition spurred competition and cooperation in unprecedented ways. Countries raced to develop and control technologies capable of monitoring and compensating for the loss of pain, creating new arenas of technological dominance and espionage. Resource allocation shifted as the demand for advanced medical devices, AI surveillance, and bioengineering skyrocketed. Global alliances and conflicts increasingly centered on access to these technologies, redefining power balances on the world stage. Culturally, philosophies and worldviews evolved in response to this new human experience. The ancient narratives that framed pain as essential to growth, empathy, and meaning faced scrutiny and revision. Some spiritual traditions embraced the painless condition as a form of transcendence or enlightenment, while others mourned the loss of suffering as a path to wisdom. Art, literature, and music reflected these tensions, exploring themes of numbness, alienation, and the search for new meaning beyond sensation. Within the realm of consciousness itself, scientists and thinkers pondered profound questions. Pain had been integral to the very construction of self-awareness, identity, and survival instinct. Without it, the boundaries of what it meant to be human blurred. New forms of cognition emerged as individuals adapted to the altered feedback systems. Some experienced heightened sensory perceptions unrelated to pain, while others exhibited detachment from their bodies. This shift sparked debates over personhood, consciousness, and the ethics of human augmentation. Environmental and societal feedback loops became intertwined. As humanity pushed technological and physical limits without pain's checks, the ecological footprint expanded, accelerating climate change and resource depletion. Urbanization intensified, and the demand for high-tech healthcare infrastructure grew, reshaping cities and rural areas alike. The delicate balance between human progress and planetary health faced unprecedented strain. Amid these long-term consequences, the ethical and philosophical questions deepened. Should humanity seek to restore pain, even artificially, to preserve survival instincts? Is pain a necessary cost of consciousness and morality? Could a painless world sustain the emotional and social bonds that define human experience? These questions sparked fierce debates in public forums, academia, and policymaking, revealing the profound uncertainty and complexity of life without pain. The world had stepped into an uncharted territory where the absence of a single sensation cascaded into transformations at every level, from the microscopic to the cosmic, from the individual psyche to the global community. The silent cost of freedom from pain was a reshaping of existence itself, fraught with promise and peril. As the narrative of this new world unfolded, it became clear that the mechanisms underlying this transformation demanded deeper exploration. To truly understand how pain vanished and what it meant, science needed to delve into the fundamental workings of the nervous system, quantum biology, and emerging technologies that intertwined with human evolution. Our next chapter will journey into the scientific heart of this phenomenon, unpacking the biological and physical processes that orchestrated the loss of pain, and exploring the frontier of knowledge that made this impossible-seeming shift a reality. To unravel the mystery of a world without pain, we must journey into the intricate and fascinating realm of biology, physics, and cutting-edge technology. Pain, as we experience it, is the result of a complex symphony of signals, molecules, and neural networks finely tuned over millions of years. The sudden disappearance of this sensation signals a profound alteration in these systems, demanding a deep dive into the science that governs them. At the most fundamental level, pain begins with nociceptors, specialized sensory neurons scattered throughout the body, from the skin to internal organs. These receptors detect noxious stimuli, such as extreme temperatures, mechanical damage, or chemical irritants. Upon activation, they send electrical impulses via peripheral nerves to the spinal cord, and ultimately to various brain regions, including the thalamus and cerebral cortex, where pain is consciously perceived, but pain is far more than just a straightforward relay of signals. The brain processes these inputs, modulating their intensity and emotional impact. This modulation involves neurotransmitters like substance P, glutamate, and endorphins, and engages regions linked to emotion and memory. Pain's subjective nature arises from this complex interplay, meaning it can be amplified, diminished, or even felt without apparent injury. The vanishing of pain on a global scale indicates that some element within this pathway has been disrupted or fundamentally altered. Recent research suggests multiple mechanisms could contribute. 1. Ion channel modification. Pain signals depend on ion channels, tiny protein gateways embedded in neuronal membranes that regulate electrical impulses. A mutation or alteration in key channels, such as the Nav1.7 sodium channel, could drastically reduce nerve excitability. In fact, rare genetic conditions like congenital insensitivity to pain arise from such mutations. If a similar change occurred widely, the result would be an inability to transmit pain signals effectively. 2. Neurotransmitter imbalance. Pain modulation relies on a delicate balance of neurotransmitters. An overproduction of natural opioids like endorphins, or enkephalins, could suppress pain signals, creating a state akin to being constantly medicated with powerful analgesics. Alternatively, deficits in excitatory neurotransmitters might blunt pain perception. Advances in neuropharmacology hint that targeted changes here could profoundly affect pain pathways. 3. Neural circuit rewiring. The brain's plasticity allows neural circuits to rewire in response to environmental or genetic factors. Emerging evidence from neuroimaging shows that in chronic pain, sufferers, certain brain regions become hyperactive or atrophied. Conversely, widespread structural or functional rewiring might suppress pain perception globally, altering the way sensory information is integrated and prioritized. 4. Molecular nanotechnology. Some scientists theorize that nanotechnological agents, microscopic machines capable of interacting at the molecular level, could interfere with pain pathways. If released deliberately or accidentally, such agents might modulate ion channels, neurotransmitters, or receptor activity, effectively silencing pain signals. This idea borders on speculative, but is not beyond the realm of near-future science. 5. Quantum biological effects. A more radical hypothesis involves quantum biology, the study of quantum phenomena in living systems. Some propose that pain signaling involves quantum coherence or entanglement in molecular structures. Disruption of these quantum states could alter the fundamental transmission of pain. While this remains theoretical, the intersection of quantum mechanics and neuroscience is an exciting frontier. Beyond the biological, the painless phenomenon also involves environmental and technological factors. Some speculate that an unidentified external stimulus, a global electromagnetic pulse, or a novel viral agent, triggered epigenetic changes, switching off genes responsible for pain. Others suggest that advances in bioengineering, perhaps unintended consequences of gene editing or synthetic biology, inadvertently rewired human sensory systems. Complementing these biological changes, artificial intelligence and cybernetic implants have emerged as key players in adapting to painlessness. Advanced AI systems analyze vast streams of biometric data, compensating for the lack of natural feedback by providing continuous health monitoring and risk assessment. Neural implants may restore some sensory awareness, offering synthetic alerts in lieu of pain, creating a hybrid biological-technological sensory network. This fusion of biology and technology reflects a profound shift. The human nervous system, once an isolated and self-contained entity, is now interconnected with digital systems designed to fill the void left by pain. Such cybernetic integration raises new questions about identity, autonomy, and the future evolution of our species. Understanding the precise mechanisms behind pain's disappearance is not just a scientific pursuit, but a crucial step toward managing the consequences. If the changes are genetic or molecular, gene therapies might one day restore selective pain perception. If technology is involved, ethical considerations about control and consent come to the fore. Moreover, this scientific exploration offers a unique window into the nature of consciousness and experience itself. Pain is intimately tied to awareness, both of the self and the environment. The disappearance of pain challenges neuroscientists and philosophers alike to reconsider how sensory input shapes cognition, emotion, and the sense of being. As we delve deeper into the workings of this painless world, the complex tapestry of biology, physics, and technology reveals itself as both fragile and adaptive. Pain's silence is not a simple shutdown, but a profound transformation, one that alters the fundamental dialogue between body and brain. The journey ahead will explore how this scientific understanding intersects with the social and existential crises that follow: the unraveling of order, the onset of chaos, and humanity's struggle to survive in a world where one of its oldest safeguards has vanished. As the initial curiosity and cautious optimism surrounding the painless world gave way to reality, cracks began to appear in the fragile new order. The absence of pain, once considered a blessing, became the source of escalating chaos. The Great Crisis unfolded in waves, touching every aspect of human life and threatening the very survival of society. The first signs emerged within healthcare systems. Emergency rooms became overwhelmed not by the frequency of injuries, but by their severity and complexity. Patients arrived too late, unaware of the mounting damage inside their bodies. Silent infections morphed into life-threatening sepsis. Fractures went untreated until mobility was lost. Chronic internal injuries weakened muscles and organs without warning. Medical staff, despite technological advances, struggled to keep pace with conditions that advanced unchecked. This crisis of delayed diagnosis spiraled rapidly. Mortality rates surged, and disability claims overwhelmed social welfare systems. The burden on families and caregivers intensified as the number of individuals suffering unseen injuries rose. Healthcare infrastructure strained under the dual pressure of managing these complex cases and adapting to a fundamentally altered human physiology. The workforce bore a heavy toll. Without pain as a natural limiter, employees pushed through exhaustion and injury, often worsening their conditions. Workplace accidents soared, particularly in physically demanding industries like construction, manufacturing, and agriculture. Employers scrambled to implement new safety measures, relying heavily on AI surveillance and biometric monitoring to identify risks. Yet, the human element, intuition and self-preservation, was diminished. In the realm of public safety, crime rates fluctuated unpredictably. Some criminals exploited the painless condition, committing acts of violence without fear of physical consequences. Others found it harder to inflict lasting harm, as victims' bodies sometimes reacted in unexpected ways without pain responses. Law enforcement agencies faced unprecedented challenges in managing this altered landscape. Social cohesion began to unravel. Empathy and compassion, once fueled by shared experiences of pain and suffering, weakened significantly. Communities became fragmented as emotional detachment increased. The absence of visible suffering reduced the urgency of aid and support. Vulnerable populations, including children and the elderly, suffered disproportionately, often going unnoticed in their silent distress. Mental health crises multiplied. The loss of pain disrupted emotional processing, leading to widespread feelings of numbness, detachment, and alienation. Rates of depression, anxiety, and substance abuse rose sharply as individuals sought artificial means to experience sensation or cope with the void left by pain. Suicide rates increased in some regions, while others witnessed the emergence of nihilistic cults and extremist movements that rejected the new reality. Governments and institutions faced mounting pressure. Public trust eroded as official responses lagged behind the rapidly changing conditions. Political instability grew as social unrest spread, fueled by fear, frustration, and inequality. Some regimes tightened authoritarian control, deploying surveillance and enforcement technologies to maintain order. Others collapsed under the weight of systemic failure. The global economy faltered. Supply chains disrupted by labor shortages and accidents strained markets. Insurance industries faced insolvency. Investments in healthcare technology soared, yet the cost burden strained national budgets. International cooperation wavered as nations competed for resources and technological supremacy in managing the painless crisis. The military sector confronted unique dilemmas. Soldiers, no longer restrained by pain, endured longer deployments but sustained hidden injuries that compromised combat effectiveness. Training protocols required complete overhaul. The risk of unrecognized battlefield trauma increased, threatening operational readiness and human lives. Amid the chaos, existential questions loomed large. Philosophers, scientists, and spiritual leaders debated the meaning of suffering and the value of pain. Was pain a necessary component of life's balance? Had humanity overstepped its bounds in altering such a fundamental aspect of existence? The crisis forced a reckoning with human identity, morality, and the limits of control. Yet, within the turmoil, sparks of resilience emerged. Communities formed around shared challenges, developing new forms of support and communication. Innovators pushed technological and medical boundaries to find solutions. Artists and writers grappled with the crisis through creative expression, helping society process the upheaval. This great crisis marked the climax of the painless era's early chapter, a moment of reckoning where hope and despair collided. The silence that once promised freedom now threatened extinction. Humanity stood at a crossroads, forced to confront the consequences of losing one of its most primal and protective senses. The path forward demanded bold action, innovation, and a willingness to redefine what it meant to be human. The next chapter explores the extraordinary efforts to salvage society through radical technologies, ethical revolutions, and the unyielding human spirit's quest to adapt and survive. In the face of a world unraveling beneath the silent shadow of painlessness, humanity's indomitable spirit stirred into motion. The crisis that had plunged societies into chaos galvanized a global effort, a collective struggle to find solutions, adapt, and reclaim control over bodies and lives that no longer obeyed the primal language of pain. At the forefront of this battle were scientists, engineers, and medical professionals who raced against time. Their first priority? To develop new technologies capable of detecting harm before it spiraled into irreversible damage. Wearable devices evolved into sophisticated bio-integrated systems, embedding themselves beneath the skin to continuously monitor vital signs, tissue health, and biochemical markers. Artificial intelligence took center stage, analyzing vast streams of real-time data to predict potential injuries or illnesses with unprecedented accuracy. These AI systems acted as vigilant sentinels, alerting users and healthcare providers to the faintest sign of trouble, compensating for what pain had once communicated instantly and intuitively. Parallel to these advances, researchers explored bioengineering strategies to reintroduce controlled pain perception. Gene editing techniques, such as CRISPR-Cas9, targeted the molecular pathways responsible for nociception. The goal was not to restore pain fully, but to create synthetic alarm systems that could warn individuals of critical injury or illness without causing overwhelming suffering. Neural implants emerged as a revolutionary frontier. These devices interfaced directly with the nervous system, simulating pain signals or other sensory feedback tailored to individual needs. Patients could switch on warnings selectively, regaining a measure of control and safety lost in the painless transition. Though controversial, these implants offered a glimpse of balance between freedom from constant pain and the necessity of survival alerts. Meanwhile, ethical frameworks evolved to guide these innovations. Societies grappled with complex questions. Should pain be artificially reinstated? How much control should individuals or governments have over sensory manipulation? What rights did a person have over their altered biology? Global conventions and bioethics councils worked tirelessly to establish guidelines balancing autonomy, safety, and the potential for misuse. Beyond technology, social adaptations were imperative. Communities developed new models of care emphasizing proactive health monitoring and mutual support. Education systems incorporated training on body awareness without pain, teaching individuals to recognize subtle signs of injury or illness through alternative cues. Mental health programs expanded, addressing the emotional and psychological consequences of pain's absence and fostering resilience, empathy, and connection. Governments implemented sweeping policy changes to protect vulnerable populations disproportionately affected by the crisis: children, elderly, and those with chronic conditions. Universal access to monitoring technologies became a priority, recognizing that without pain's natural signals, equity in healthcare depended heavily on technology. The workplace transformed fundamentally. Safety protocols integrated AI supervision and biometric monitoring, reducing accidents and compensating for lost instinctual caution. Industries explored automation to replace dangerous manual labor, protecting workers from harm that might go unnoticed. Labor laws adapted to new realities, emphasizing prevention and technological assistance. International cooperation deepened as nations shared research, resources, and strategies. The crisis transcended borders, necessitating a unified approach. Global alliances formed around the development and ethical deployment of technologies to manage the painless condition. Space agencies even discussed how lessons from Earth's crisis could inform future human settlements beyond the planet, where painlessness might pose unique challenges. Spiritually and culturally, humanity sought new meaning. Religions and philosophies reinterpreted suffering, pain, and existence in light of the altered condition. Some embraced the crisis as a catalyst for growth, an opportunity to transcend old paradigms and evolve collective consciousness. Others mourned the loss of pain's traditional role in shaping empathy and identity, but found hope in emerging human resilience. Creative expression flourished amid turmoil. Artists, writers, and performers explored themes of numbness, vulnerability, and rebirth, helping society process the complex emotions surrounding the crisis. These cultural works fostered empathy and understanding, knitting communities together even as physical pain no longer connected them. Yet, the struggle was far from over. The crisis revealed humanity's profound dependence on pain, not just as a physical warning, but as a foundation of survival, social cohesion, and emotional richness. The quest to adapt demanded not only technological innovation, but a reevaluation of what it meant to live, feel, and connect. This phase of human history was a testament to resilience, the capacity to confront fundamental change and forge new paths forward. The battle against the consequences of painlessness was not merely a fight for survival, but a redefinition of humanity itself. Looking beyond adaptation, humanity faced a future ripe with possibilities and challenges. Would this new world become a utopia of enhanced well-being and longevity, or would it give rise to unforeseen perils and fractures? The next chapter delves into the future that humanity is beginning to build, a world reshaped by painlessness, technology, and the enduring quest for meaning. As humanity struggled through the chaos and began to adapt, a new world emerged, one shaped profoundly by the absence of pain, advanced technology, and shifting values. This future was neither dystopian nor utopian, but a complex fusion of hope, challenge, and transformation. The foundations of society, culture, and identity were being rewritten in ways that reflected the deep changes to human experience. In this new era, health and wellness took on unprecedented meaning. Freed from pain's tyranny, yet aware of its vital role, humans embraced a balance between biological limits and technological enhancement. Continuous health monitoring became universal, not just for the vulnerable, but for all. Bioengineered sensory systems and neural implants provided tailored feedback, alerting individuals to danger before harm became critical. Healthcare shifted from reactive treatment to proactive prevention. Personalized medicine, driven by AI, genomics, and real-time biometric data, enabled interventions before disease onset. Hospitals evolved into centers for wellness optimization, combining physical health with mental and emotional well-being. Chronic diseases declined as early detection and tailored therapies became the norm. The workplace transformed profoundly. Automation replaced many hazardous tasks, but humans worked alongside intelligent machines, focusing on creativity, problem-solving, and social interaction. Safety was ensured not by pain-driven caution, but through integrated technology and culture. Labor laws and workplace ethics emphasized dignity, autonomy, and well-being. Social bonds, once strained by the loss of shared suffering, found new roots. Empathy was cultivated through education, arts, and technology that simulated emotional experiences. Virtual reality and augmented reality platforms allowed people to share sensations and feelings, recreating connections that pain had once facilitated. New rituals and cultural practices emerged to honor vulnerability and human complexity. Politically, governance adapted to the new human condition. Policies prioritized equitable access to enhancement technologies and healthcare. Privacy and autonomy became central concerns as biomonitoring systems grew ubiquitous. International cooperation flourished around regulating neurotechnologies, data security, and ethical standards. The environment also benefited from humanity's recalibrated relationship with risk and endurance. Without pain-driven recklessness, efforts to protect ecosystems intensified. Sustainable technologies and urban designs integrated seamlessly with nature. The ecological footprint shrank as societies prioritized long-term planetary health alongside human longevity. Spiritually and philosophically, new paradigms blossomed. Some traditions embraced the painless condition as a stage in human evolution, a step toward transcendence and higher consciousness. Others developed philosophies emphasizing balance, interconnection, and the co-creation of meaning beyond sensation. Art and literature reflected these themes, exploring the nuances of a world where pain was a choice rather than a necessity. However, this new world was not without its paradoxes and challenges. The synthetic restoration of pain remained contentious, with debates over its necessity and ethics. Questions about identity and personhood deepened as humans integrated ever more closely with technology. Some feared that reliance on artificial feedback might erode authentic experience or autonomy. Inequality persisted as access to enhancement technologies varied. Disparities between those who could afford advanced implants or therapies and those who could not risked creating new social divides. Policymakers grappled with ensuring inclusivity in a rapidly evolving landscape. Moreover, the emotional and existential complexity of living without natural pain demanded ongoing attention. While technology offered substitutes and simulations, the lived human experience remained in flux, balancing numbness and sensation, freedom and caution, alienation and connection. Looking forward, humanity stood at a crossroads. The choices made now about technology, ethics, social structures, and culture would determine whether the painless world became a flourishing ecosystem of well-being or a fragile existence haunted by detachment and division. Yet, within this uncertainty lay profound possibility. The story of painlessness was ultimately a story of adaptation, resilience, and transformation. It revealed the extraordinary capacity of life to evolve in the face of fundamental change, and the enduring quest for meaning that defines the human journey. As we move to the final chapter, we reflect on the lessons learned, the questions that remain, and the inspiration that arises from imagining and living within a world without pain. As we arrive at the end of this journey through a world without pain, it's time to pause and reflect on what this profound thought experiment reveals. Not only about the nature of pain itself, but about the essence of humanity. Pain, often seen as the enemy, emerges as a silent teacher, a guardian, and a deeply woven thread in the fabric of life. The exploration of a painless world forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, that pain is integral to survival, learning, and connection. Without it, bodies falter silently, emotions numb, and social bonds fray. Yet pain is also a source of suffering that humanity has tirelessly sought to alleviate. The tension between these realities, pain as both protector and tormentor, lies at the heart of the human experience. This paradox teaches us that pain is not merely a biological signal, but a complex phenomenon linking body, mind, and society. It shapes our behaviors, informs our ethics, and cultivates empathy. Pain compels us to care, for ourselves and for others, and it challenges us to grow beyond adversity. It is a crucible forging resilience and meaning. The story of a painless humanity is also a story of adaptation and innovation. Faced with a crisis that threatened the very foundations of life, humans harnessed science, technology, and collective willpower to survive and thrive. They developed new senses through artificial intelligence and cybernetic implants, rewrote social contracts to prioritize care and equity, and forged new cultural meanings that transcended sensation. Yet this story warns of the delicate balance we must maintain. The temptation to escape suffering entirely, whether through technology, medicine, or altered consciousness, must be weighed against the risks of detachment, vulnerability loss, and erosion of connection. It calls for humility in our interventions and respect for the complexity of life. Philosophically, the painless world challenges us to redefine what it means to be human. Is it our sensations that define us, or our responses to them? Can meaning exist without suffering? How do we preserve empathy and identity in an age where fundamental experiences change? These questions are not abstract but urgent as we face real-world advances in pain management, neurotechnology, and human enhancement. Our choices today shape the future of sensation, health, and humanity's evolution. The story invites us to reflect deeply on ethics, purpose, and the interplay between biology and technology. On a personal level, it encourages gratitude for the warning signals that keep us safe and for the emotional depths that pain reveals. It reminds us that pain, though unwelcome, is part of life's richness, a dimension of existence that connects us through shared vulnerability and resilience. As we close this exploration, one question remains. If you could choose, would you live without pain, or would you accept the aches and stings as necessary companions on the journey of being human? Perhaps the answer lies not in denial, but in balance, in embracing pain as a guide rather than a curse, a force that teaches us the value of healing, growth, and connection. In imagining a world without pain, we glimpse the fragility and strength of human life. We see how a single sensation underpins health, emotion, society, and identity, and we recognize that the challenges of a painless existence ultimately reflect the enduring human quest to understand ourselves and to find meaning amid change. Thank you for joining this journey into the silent world. May it inspire you to appreciate the complexity of your own sensations, to care deeply for others, and to face life's inevitable pains with courage and compassion. After all, it is through our struggles and triumphs, through pain and healing, that we discover what it truly means to be alive. Thank you for watching and exploring this fascinating journey into a world without pain. If this video made you rethink something about your own experience or the human condition, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What would life be like if pain simply vanished? And how would you want to live differently, knowing pain's true role in our lives? Stay curious, stay compassionate, and I'll see you in the next video where we dive even deeper into the mysteries of what makes us human.